If you're struggling to perform well in your EASHL games, you could be using the wrong build. I'm going to show you the best way to design your builds in NHL 25 EASHL. The builds are divided into 3 different skater positions on the ice: center, winger, and defenseman. From there are 3 different build categories that you can choose from: a fast build, a balanced build, and a big strong build. The way to decide this is by looking primarily at the height and weight. More importantly, the weight. This determines how fast or slow you are. Most competitive players choose the fast builds due to the meta that has been in the game for many years with straight lining and quick turns, mainly settling around 94-95 speed. Your weight for these builds needs to be 160. This will get you at least 94 speed, excel, and 95 agility. For a more balanced build competitively, I recommend no more than 180 pounds, which will give you 93 speed, excel, and agility. It gives you more balance and a better playstyle. These 2 build categories can be used all around in EASHL from 3v3 to 6v6 and all other game modes too, to give you the best competitive chance. The big strong builds I'd only recommend for certain game modes, which I'll get into later. The height can add or subtract a point off certain attributes, but it is mainly to determine your skating stride. From 5'7" to 5'10", you get the quick strides, but not a lot of length from each stride. From 5'11" to 6'2", you get a more balanced stride length and speed. From 6'3" to 6'6", it's a little bit longer length and slower, but not by much. And anything taller is the slowest and longest stride lengths. To play competitively, the best is between 5'10" to 6'1", based on your speed you want with your builds and the stride type you want. This is also affected by your skating style, which I have up on the screen now, which has definitely had an effect on my speed since the change I made late last year in 24. There are others that people have used which could be found around the community by other creators. I got this one from one of the best esports defensemen in the game currently, and it's been game changing for me. You can now choose the class that best suits each position based on your build category and can select abilities you want for each build. For centers, Playmaker is the best with the fast builds. For zone abilities, I'd either choose tape to tape, puck on a string, or big tipper based on your playstyle as a center. Most competitive players use puck on a string. A two-way forward build is best for the balanced builds at center. Zone abilities I choose there would be stick 'em up mainly, but no contest, heat seeker, and quick pick are also solid as well. Best superstar abilities pertaining to these builds would be close quarters, 1T, tape to tape, or defensive abilities in shutdown, truculent, stick 'em up, no contest, and quick pick. Find the right combination for you. I use close quarters and shutdown. I'll get into reasons later in the video. For wingers, there's a bit more freedom. Playmaker, dangler, sniper, puck moving D-man, and offensive D-man can be used. Competitive players either go with playmaker, dangler, and sometimes sniper for the fast builds. I prefer playmaker. Best zone abilities to choose from are the puck on a string, tape to tape, close quarters, and 1T. Best superstar abilities follow those same 4 abilities, selecting them based on what was chosen for zone. Find the right combination based on your playstyle. I like using gold puck on a string with silver close quarters and 1T on a playmaker. For defensemen, puck moving D-man is almost always selected and is the only choice for fast builds. Stick 'em up is best for zone, but tape to tape or send it can be used as well. Two-way forward or D-man can be used, as well as offensive D-man for balanced builds. Stick 'em up, heat seeker, quick pick, shutdown, and 1T are the best for zone abilities. I've always stuck with the puck moving D-man with gold stick 'em up competitively. Best superstar abilities can vary based on your playstyle. Typically combine a defensive ability with an offensive one, but you could choose 2 defensive abilities if preferred. Best ones for defense are shutdown, truculence, no contest, and quick pick. On offense, 1T, heat seeker, tape to tape, and puck on a string can be used. I typically use shutdown and 1T. For boost, the main areas I look at for center and defensemen are doubling down on the playstyle category and attributes. Stick checking and defense awareness are usually the choice within the category, as offense is usually set pretty high already, and defense is a big concern for these positions. You also get more points from taking away defense awareness that can be used elsewhere for extra points. Other areas of concern are endurance and deking, but I think apply more to wingers, as controlling the puck and managing your stamina bar are key areas for wingers and centers. For my center and defense builds, I use Discipline IQ and Discipline Stick, or Positional IQ and Quick Stick, whichever you want to go with for more stick checking and defense awareness. My two-way forward benefits more with Agile Deking and more Deking, making it close to 90 with still a solid playstyle. My winger builds vary depending on the class I choose. Looking at the stats, you can apply whatever is necessary to boost whatever is lacking. For example, my playmaker for wing benefits more with agile deking and discipline IQ, while my sniper needs controlled passing alongside deking. My dangler benefits more with defense awareness and passing with already high deking, so understand the pattern and apply as needed. For attributes, a pattern is shown here as well for how I tweak my builds in all cases. In the technique and power categories, speed, excel, and agility are important to have max, with how the speed of the game is favored and has been considered meta by almost every competitive player. It isn't advised to have high shooting accuracies and power, considering the need for more speed, and consider how your abilities play a larger role in your shot than your stat value. Your shooting abilities, both gold and silver, apply the necessary boost to your shot to make it a powerful shot depending on what's used. For my puck movement D-man build, with high 70s, low 80s shot accuracy and power, I'm still quite able to blast 1Ts from the point on target for goals. Could just be from the huge buff to 1Ts this year, but that just implies more of a reason to not crank it up so high for no reason. Speed, excel, and agility have always been favored by the more competitive players, and being able to control the puck is key to outperform your opponents in the straight line past them or to keep up with them without the need to downplay yourself based on a slower build. With speed, excel, agility maxed, it's also best to have both puck control and endurance near 90 or more as well. For my playstyle, this is a very important category. Centers is best to rock a mix of offense and defense. Wingers catering towards offense and defensemen catering towards defense. For all positions, I rock around 90 passing. Offense awareness varies for each position. Defensemen, I rock about 85, centers at 90, and wingers from 92 to 95 as they're supposed to be more offensive. Body checking and stick checking kind of go hand in hand a little. Can either have one higher over the other or try to balance both. I typically go with more stick checking for pokes, preference for me, but you can switch it as needed. I often think ping plays a higher role in success in defending and holding onto the puck, so I would play around with these stats and figure out what's the best for your setup. Defensive awareness varies again on the positions. Centers, I recommend at least 85. Now, some may ask why not 90 due to defending the slot and middle of the ice. It takes more points to raise this attribute, and a drop off of others isn't recommended to accommodate this stat. You should have defensemen help most times too. Also, some classes like playmaker can't even get to 90 despite the boost applied to it, so around 85 is best. For wingers, it's based on your class. I like the playmaker here so I can reach 80, so if I'm in rotation with a teammate and playing back, I can be confident here until help arrives. For danglers, around 75, and for snipers, around 70. More offensive with these builds, so there's a weakness in defense here, but playmakers can average 80 while sustaining pretty high offensive stats, which is so effective to have. For defensemen, it's best to have at least 90 or more defensive awareness. In tenacity, for all builds, I go high hand-eye and strength, low durability, and shot block. I rarely get injured in a game. If I do, it's no more than once, and shot blocking is kind of useless as it's only for the animation, but your player can block a shot in good position without it. You don't play for the block shot anyway, you play for the intercept. In tactics, deking you want to have high so your basic stick handles aren't done slowly. Every competitive player has this high, and is also why they prefer puck on a string for most offensive builds to control the puck and buy time for either a shot or a pass. Faceoffs only need to be high for centers and some wingers for sixes, so having 90 is a must for centers, while wingers can get away with 85 or so, but could prioritize having 90 as well if your center goes to the box often. Fighting skill is useless, always have it down, and the remaining points can be applied to discipline so you don't get penalized. So why aren't big, strong builds used competitively? It comes down to what is favored by competitive players as well as what is banned within the league they're playing in. So for example, the most popular 6v6 league out there is LG, which stands for League Gaming. It's a bidding/draft style league where you play with randoms that bid or draft you to play for their team. There are abilities that are banned from that league and others too. Truculence, Unstoppable Force, Big Tipper are all banned in this league, while No Contest is also banned at the esports level. So competitive players playing in these leagues aren't going to use abilities elsewhere due to prepping for the league games. So the purpose of using power forward, defensive defenseman, and enforcer is to use abilities like Truculence and Unstoppable Force. No competitive player is using those if it's banned. Plus, the idea of using these builds in 6s just doesn't work. They're too slow based on what everyone else is using, and they also lack value in key areas. The main essence is in playing physical, but to be honest, the fast builds aren't exactly not able to be physical as well. I've seen a handful of times where a small, fast build can knock down a big, strong build with ease with a hip check or simple body check. This actually has been a huge problem for many players seeking variety these past few years, looking to EA for a change, but the issue is in the player base mainly. It was the leagues that decided to ban these abilities, not EA, as they deemed the abilities to either be OP or not likable in league games broadcasted to others. And the competitive players just follow suit. This then gets cascaded down to the rest of the community, not in leagues looking for the best builds to use. It isn't on EA, as they've given us a new build system since NHL 22 with more options, and the more options you give players, the more a meta is displayed and favored. That being said, for those that aren't in leagues and play 3s either in clubs or 3s eliminator, 1s eliminator, or quick play, could use big builds with truculence, as you won't get penalized with charging or boarding penalties, etc. Could also use in 6s too, technically, but use with caution, and I'd recommend having high discipline so every hit doesn't land you in the box for 2 or 5. I'd still recommend keeping to the speed playstyle with 195 pounds. This gives you pretty good speed, excel, and agility. Another question is, why isn't the grinder used with Big Tipper? Simply put, it lacks in the playstyle over another balanced build in the two-way forward, and the playmaker also now has Big Tipper this year with a much faster, more effective build, so the grinder is basically useless. Finally, my go-to builds that I use for each position are as follows. Defenseman, I use a puck-moving D-man at 6 foot 160 with gold stick 'em up, silver shutdown, and 1T with disciplined IQ and disciplined stick. Since truculence is banned in leagues, that is why I use shutdown. For center, I use a playmaker at 6 foot 160 with gold puck on a string, silver close quarters, and shutdown with disciplined IQ and disciplined stick. For winger, I use a playmaker again at 6 foot 160 with gold puck on a string, silver close quarters, and 1T with agile deking and disciplined IQ. So why is 6 foot, you may ask, and not 6'1"? This isn't something I've tested thoroughly, but many competitive players at the highest peak have used it, and I've heard it provides better animations for turning and puck pickups. To me, I made the switch at the start of 25 and haven't given much thought of it to test 6'1", and it's basically a split amongst many competitive players on what they prefer. I think it's just based on preference, but you let me know. If you made it this far, be sure to like the video, subscribe here if you're new, hit that bell so you don't miss out on new videos. Here is another video where I break down how to master 6v6 defensive positioning.